Welcome to Just Us Friends and our videos. We have a series of many different videos that we hope will be helpful to give you a little encouragement, maybe a little new information. This video is about dramas, and there are a lot of ways that we consider working with dramas. There's references to living with psychological dramas and a lot of psychological teachings, and of course there are many other like literary dramas, but the way I want to combine the psychology of dramas and reaching to one's highest self, our highest actualization, is to consider for a moment that we all have that capacity to live in our clearest, highest self. And so that self, that mature adult, that being who you are in your most harmonious way, a place of equanimity and balance, that self can just flow with what happens. Negative things happen, and we can hold them in a place of a larger view so we don't get hooked in them. So everything comes and goes, and we let it arise and fall away. Not too much is a big deal. Now, for sure, there are big deals in life, and everybody has those times where our capacity to stay in balance is truly tried by traumas. Many of us, unfortunately, add layers and layers of stress and trauma and drama to the ups and downs of everyday life that in and of themselves are not that big a deal. And where those dramas come from are actually old reactions, old habitual reactions to life that we learned a long time ago as a tiny child. We learned from our parents, we learned from the society, and in some way we learned a very primitive emotional responsiveness when we were 2 or 3 years old, because that's all that we had the capacity to do at that age. But if those responses were rewarded and we found that we got a lot of mileage out of a temper tantrum or making demands or trying to be competitive or all those things that a 2-year-old does to get their way, then if those experiences were so rewarding we didn't grow beyond them, then a lot of times at 32 we're still using those same techniques in order to get the successes that we want in the world. So that's what I'm going to call dramas. Your true self, your mature self, your balanced self, your compassionate self, your highest self can live in this world in a way that makes most good and bad arisings just that, no big deal. It is the 2-year-old child that is still alive within us all that was variously reinforced, that oftentimes lives with the worldview and the self-view of a little child and continually lives the habitual ways of interacting with people that we learned when we were very little. So if we had a certain pattern that happened between ourselves and our parents or siblings, it's almost like we go on automatic pilot when we get the cue for us to step on stage and say our lines. A lot of times we don't even think there's another option, that there's not even an awareness that there's another way to be. It is what we've done all our life, and when somebody gives us our cue or pushes the buttons, as we sometimes hear, then we go into the patterns that are so deeply entrenched in our psyche. If we realize that we have another option, and that a lot of times we live those other options in times when we know we have to be successful. For example, if we're having a discussion with a boss, or we have to go to traffic court or something like that, we're far less likely to be the 2-year-old child in response to that situation. So we know how to respond from our place of equanimity and compassion and balance. But in especially those relationships that we're most used to, we go back to the way we learned to be in those very, very old familiar interactions with family or maybe with friends. That is always adding layer and layer of stress and drama and causing suffering to ourselves and others. So it is a very good thing to look at what our favorite family dramas are and what we think they're supposed to accomplish for us. How is that script supposed to go? Are we always supposed to be the good guy and the other person's the bad guy? Are we always supposed to win? Are we always supposed to get to be the smart one? We have an agenda in those old dramas, and if somebody doesn't play their part very well, a lot of times we get mad. We're supposed to be the winner, not them. We're supposed to be the good guy, not them. So look at those dramas and look at often how unkind they are, especially if we're passing them down to our children and expecting our children to play the other roles in our dramatic story, because then we're inviting a whole nother generation to repeat dramas of pain and suffering and dysfunctional, painful relationships. We can't have a warm, intimate, loving relationship when we're running those old dramatic scripts. So notice your dramas, notice the dramas of the people that you're in loving relationships with. Don't put a lot of energy into trying to change their dramas, because they're not going to be very thrilled when you present to them that maybe they're involved in a drama and you would like them to do their drama differently. The only good will come from looking at our own drama and making decisions about how to have an authentic, fully mature relationship from your highest, compassionate, loving, balanced self as much as possible with all those that you come into contact with. So good luck. It's the best way to take the stress off your shoulders and make your life happy.